Welcome back to Apex Sci-Fi. In ground combat there is one constant, the ground. You can dig into it, you can run across it, but you always know where it is. Gravity is the law. But in space combat, inside the belly of a massive starship, gravity is not a law. It is a suggestion. It is a machine. A generator humming in the engineering deck. And like any machine, it can be hacked. Most alien species treat artificial gravity as life support, something you set to 1G and forget. Humans? We treat it as a weapon. Today's story is about the boarding of the Zyloth dreadnought, a fortress considered impregnable by conventional means. The Zyloth were 7-foot-tall shock troopers who excelled in hallway firefights. They were ready for a siege. But they weren't ready for the shaker tactic. They weren't ready for a world where the floor becomes the ceiling every 5 seconds. If you have a strong stomach, smash that like button. And if you want to see what happens when an entire army falls up, subscribe and turn on notifications. Mag boots locked. Hang on tight. High Warlord Grox stood at the heavy blast doors of Sector 4. He was a Zyloth, a species bred for war. His armor weighed 300 pounds. His plasma cannon was bolted to his arm. Behind him, 50 of his elite breach guards waited in formation. They had set up barricades, deployed energy shields, and created a kill zone that would shred anything coming through the airlock. "Let the humans come," Grox growled, his voice a low rumble. "They are soft. They rely on speed. In this corridor there is no room to run. We will grind them to dust." The humans had breached the outer hull 10 minutes ago. But strangely they hadn't advanced. The sensors showed them holding position in the engineering maintenance shafts. "Why do they not attack?" his lieutenant asked. "Are they cowards?" "They are strategizing," Grox spat. "But no strategy overcomes superior firepower in a choke point. Hold the line." Suddenly the lights flickered. A deep, groaning sound echoed through the ship's hull. It wasn't an explosion. It sounded like a massive turbine spinning down, and then spinning up in reverse. "Power fluctuation?" Grox asked. "Negative," the lieutenant checked his wrist. "Comp reactor is stable. But, sir, the gravity generator is cycling. Someone is messing with the polarity coils." Grox laughed. "Gravity? Let them turn it off. We are trained for 0G combat. We will float and shoot just as well." But the humans didn't turn it off. 0G is predictable. Floating is easy. What Sergeant Boots Miller did was much, much worse. Deep in the maintenance shaft, Sergeant Miller connected his ruggedized data pad to the Zyloth gravity conduit. "Access granted," Miller grinned. "All right, boys. Protocol, paint shaker. Maglocks on. Verify seals." The squad of 20 Terran Marines slammed their heels together. Clank. The electromagnets in their heavy boots engaged, locking them to the metal floor with a grip strength of 5 tons. They were immovable statues. "Here we go," Miller whispered. "Cycle time, random. Intensity, 3GS. Axis, variable." He hit enter. Back in the main corridor, Warlord Grox felt a strange sensation in his stomach. A drop. Then the world flipped. Instantly. Gravity didn't just turn off. It reversed. The down vector shifted 180 degrees. The ceiling became the floor. But the acceleration wasn't 1G. It was 3GS. Grox, his 50 soldiers, their heavy barricades, the ammo crates, and the loose debris were launched upward with violent force. Crash. They slammed into the ceiling. The sound of 50 heavy bodies hitting metal was sickening. Bones snapped. Armor cracked. Grox hit the ceiling face first, his nose shattering inside his helmet. He groaned, trying to push himself up. What is this?" he wheezed. He looked up. At the floor. The airlock door opened. The human Marines walked in. They weren't falling. They were walking on the floor, upside down from Grox's perspective. Their mag boots kept them anchored. To the humans it looked like the Zyloth were pinned to the ceiling like insects. "Targets exposed," Miller's voice boomed over the speakers. "Open fire." The humans raised their rifles. They had perfect cover. The Zyloth's own barricades, which were still bolted to the floor. The Zyloth, however, were sprawled flat on the ceiling, completely exposed, dazed and broken. "Return fire." Grox screamed, trying to aim his cannon while pinned by 3GS of force. The Zyloth fired wildly. But aiming while upside down, crushed by gravity, is nearly impossible. The humans fired back with disciplined bursts. Zyloth soldiers dropped from the ceiling. Well, they didn't drop, they just slumped, dead, pinned by the artificial weight. "Shift," Miller ordered. He tapped a button. Gravity shifted again. Not back to normal. Sideways. Left became down. The humans, anchored by their boots, leaned into the shift, their suit gyros compensating. The Zyloth? They fell again. They slid across the ceiling and plummeted 20 meters down the length of the corridor, slamming into the far bulkhead. It was a landslide of bodies and armor. Crunch. It was like being inside a dice cup that a giant was shaking. My legs, a Zyloth soldier screamed. They are broken. Hold on to something. Grox roared, grabbing a light fixture. The fixture tore out of the wall and he tumbled into the pile of his own men. Shift. Gravity rotated 45 degrees forward. The pile of Zyloth bodies slid down the wall and crashed onto the floor. Before they could stand up, the humans were upon them. Walking calmly. Clank, clank, clank. The sound of the magnetic boots was the sound of doom. The humans walked up the walls. They walked over the obstacles. They walked through the air, indifferent to the chaos. Grox looked up. A human was standing on the wall directly above him, looking down the barrel of a shotgun. Physics check, the human said. Boom. The battle for the Zyloth dreadnought wasn't a fight. It was a massacre. Miller drove them through the ship. He herded them. He used gravity to slam doors shut on them. He used gravity to throw them down elevator shafts, and then stop them mid-fall and then threw them back up. The Zyloth, the proudest warriors in the galaxy, were reduced to vomit-covered, broken heaps of meat. They couldn't aim. They couldn't stand. They couldn't think. Their inner ears were screaming. The vertigo was disabling. They were fighting an enemy that stood still while the universe spun around them. Miller reached the bridge. The door was locked. "Shall we cut it, Sarge?" a private asked. "Nah." Miller checked his datapad. "Let's knock." He selected the bridge zone. He set gravity to 10 GS. He hit pulse. Inside the bridge, the Zyloth captain and his crew were flattened. They were pressed into the deck plates with 10 times their body weight. Their lungs couldn't expand. Their hearts couldn't pump. They passed out in seconds from GLOC. Miller set gravity back to 1G. "Doors open," he said. The squad walked in. The crew was unconscious, bleeding from noses and ears but alive. Miller walked up to the captain's chair. He unclipped his helmet. He looked at the view screen showing the stars, stable, calm, rotating gently. "Nice ship," Miller said. "Bit of a bumpy ride though. You might want to get those stabilizers checked." When Warlord Grox woke up, he was in a brig. A human officer was sitting across from him. "How?" Grox rasped. "We outnumbered you 10 to 1. We had heavy armor. We had the high ground." "High ground is relative, buddy," the officer smiled. "In space there is no up or down. There is only where you stick your feet." The Zyloth Empire analyzed the battle footage for years. They tried to train for variable gravity combat. They built spinning centrifuges. They equipped their troops with magnetic boots. But they never mastered it like the humans. Because for a Zyloth, gravity was a constant of nature. A law. For a human, gravity was just another variable to be exploited. Another tool in the box. The UNS Breaker squads became known as the Void Dancers. They didn't march. They walked on ceilings. They dropped from floors. They turned corridors into washing machines. And the aliens learned a terrifying lesson. Never board a human ship. And never let a human board yours. Because the moment they touch your console, the floor you are standing on becomes their ammunition. This has been Apex Sci-Fi. We take gravity for granted. But imagine if the ground suddenly decided to throw you at the ceiling. If this story made you dizzy, hit that like button to stabilize your orbit. Comment below. If you had mag boots, would you walk on the ceiling of your house? Subscribe. And keep your feet on the ground, if you can. Gravity normalized.